I hope you have a good explanation for this, came your stern, motherly tone as you glanced from your husband to the three young males beside him. You had been happy to see Kojiro back home, safe and sound, but was relatively surprised to see him with three young slayers, whom you seemed several times at the butterfly estate. I invited them here to stay with us. They needed a place to stay since the butterfly estate is booked, Kojiro exclaims. He begins explaining how he refused to allow his young Kaminai to stay at some dingy old inn in town, and how he'll take care of them from the time being. You could swear you could feel your veins appear on your forehead as you groaned in irritation. Here he goes again, inviting strangers to your home. Curse his big, fucking, beautiful, golden heart and generosity. Not that you were complaining, considering that's one of the many reasons why you loved your husband. Kojiro, where are they going to sleep? We have extra futons, and the living room is optional, he responded bitterly. You sighed, really not in the mood to argue with him. Luckily, you had enough food this time, so now you'll even 7 months to feed instead of 3. Fine, you say, before sipping a split of your tea, whilst Tayo continued to coo and play with his wooden rattle next to you. They can stay, but one condition, you say, after sitting your teacup down and shooting the 3 boys next to your husband a stern glare that made you look threateningly dangerous. If you make a mess, you clean it up. Do I make myself clear? You ask them. Tanjiro and Zenitsu immediately straightened, feeling a bone-chilling shiver down their spine as they nodded. Inosuke didn't really care. Yes, Mr. Rengoku. Understood, Tanjiro said, a little shooken up. Yes, my lady, whatever you say, said Zenitsu nervously, but with hearts in his eyes. Yes, said Inosuke. Your gaze soon softened, and you're quickly back to your motherly personality. Good. Anyways, make yourselves at home, whilst I'll get started on supper. You smiled before standing up and heading towards the kitchen. The 3, including Kojiro, released a sigh. They didn't know they're holding as they sighed in relief. Glad to know that everything went well with you. The 3 of them watched as Kojiro casually walked over and scooped up his son in his arms and spun him around, much to the toddler's delight, before peppering the top of his head with kisses, like he always did after returning home. Sorry, this reminds me of my nephew. Kojiro then brought his son over to his young Kasakai. This is my son, Tayo, he says, and the 3 were awestruck to see how the baby boy resembled his father so much. They were literally a copy and paste situation of each other, with the same flaming hair, eyes, and eyebrows, which the young slayers found amazing. Tanjiro briefly recalled seeing Senjiro, Rengoku's little brother. He looked just like you and Senjiro, Rengoku-san. At Tanjiro's comment, the flame Hashira laughed softly. Then you should meet my old man. You'd be amazed. Kojiro chuckles as Tayu reached a hand out to Inosuke. His little golden and red eyes shined in both curiosity and bewilderment at the sight of a boar-headed wearing warrior. Seeing this, Inosuke just tilted his head in question at the toddler, not sure what the child wanted as Tayu continued to babble and reached with grabby hands at him. Tayu seems quite interested in your boarhead, Inosuke. Tanjiro quins. Huh? You mean he isn't scared of this hog? Zenitsu asked in disbelief, considering whatever child saw Inosuke as. They'd literally cry for their mothers, usually. Why should he be scared of me, Michiro? Inosuke growls. It's Zenitsu, and your stupid pig's head is disgusting and disturbing as it is. Well, at least Tatuo isn't or at least he's not making a big deal out of it. It's Tayo, idiot. At this commissional sight of Inosuke and Zenitsu arguing, Tayo squealed and giggled, whilst Tanjiro could only facepalm at his friends bickering, while as Kojiro laughed. When dinner time eventually came around, Kojiro was amazed at how easily you quickly warmed up to his young Kasakai in order. Just a short period of time. You were enjoying their company and even learned a things or two about their sad backstory, like life struggles and situations. Mainly, you empathize with Tanjiro and his younger sister, Nezuko. At first, you were wary of the young girl, considering she's a demon. However, after understanding her cause and seeing that she's in fact different and still contained her humanity, you accepted her and treated her as if she was your own daughter. Besides, she's cute as hell, and you'd be fooled to say she isn't. You giggled at Zenitsu as a timid boy had complimented your beauty and admiration shining in his eyes, in which he sort of reminded you of how Kojiro reacted towards you when you first met. Though you were put off by Inosuke's boarhead since he reminded you of the Gozu, or the cow/ox head demon in Japan Buddhist mythology, which you jokingly referred him as man, bear, pig. But after learning the touching story of him being raised in the wild by a female boar, you couldn't help but sympathize for the boy. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if any of you know this, but Inosuke is wearing that same head of the boar who took care of him. Just telling you. Sorry, but you were also amazed to see that behind the boar head was a boy with a pretty face. Strangely enough, the four youngsters were already like family, and that alone was enough to make a big, genuine smile on your face. Nezuko-chan, don't let Tayu pull on your bamboo. You say, said girl mumbled as she continued to hold Tayu in her hands, while the toddler trying to grab her bamboo mouthpiece. Both Tanjiro and Zenitsu slightly gushed at how the adorable display, whilst Kojiro and Inosuke continued to chow down on the delicious bowl of ramen you cooked, and everything else. I should get started on preparing your beds, you say. Oh, thank you, Miss Rengoku, said Tanjiro, but really sorry for the inconvenience. Nonsense. You're always welcome, as long as Kojiro lets me know ahead of time. Your cooking is delicious, Miss Rengoku, commented Zenitsu. Why, thank you, sweetie. Glad you liked it. You smiled. Heavens, what delightful children. Why did I say that weirdly? Once dinner was over, you found yourself setting up the futons for the four young house guests, whilst Kojiro and the boys were freshening up in the bathroom. The playful sounds of Tayu's laughing was only thing filling the silent room as Nezuko continued to play peekaboo with him. You smiled warmly at this display. You're really good with children, Nezuko-chan, you commented, causing the young girl to blush bashfully. Indeed, it was like having a new addition to your family. You were beginning to see Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke as sons, and Nezuko as a daughter. After Tanjiro, Kojiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke had finished their baths, you and Nezuko went next, along with Tayu in tow. Nezuko even allowed you to wash her hair, which you had fun braiding. Upon exiting the bathroom with you and Nezuko now donning your yakutas, you'd entered the living room, only to find Tanjiro and the others already settled in their individual futons, all whilst donning their jimbies. Nezuko quickly ran up to her big brother, who in turn is always delighted to see her. Hey, Nezuko, how was your bath? Tanjiro asked, patting her head. She muttered in delight. Zenitsu soon took a note of her hair that was now braided into a long ponytail and immediately swooned over how cute she looked, much to the annoyance of Inosuke, who threw a pillow at him. Thus, it ended up with the two bickering once again. Your baby squealed and laughed, and conditionally display, it was clear that to you that Tayu seemed to enjoy the sight of Zenitsu and Inosuke fighting. You had a mental note as to teach your son about how not to find violence entertaining. All right, boys, you scolded. That's enough. And the two of them immediately stopped their squirming before uttering the occasional, "He started it." You rolled your eyes at their antics before making sure they were all comfortable and ready for bed. Well, I'm off to put Tayo to bed. I wish you all nothing but pleasant dreams. You say, "Thanks, Mr. Rengoku. You too." Tanjiro replied kindly. Yeah, and thank you for letting us stay the night. You really are an angel," Zenitsu said sweetly. Thanks. Inosuke replied nonchalantly. You smiled, finding their gratitude enthusiastic as you nodded, only to gasp when Nezuko, in her small form, came up to you and hugged you. You graciously hugged her back while supporting Tayu with one arm. "Aw, you're all too kind." You beamed. Soon Kojiro entered the room. He's shirtless, revealing his well-toned torso and only donning a pair of hammer pants. Ooh. He had a wooden toothbrush in his mouth and currently had been in the middle of brushing his teeth. "Forgot your pajamas, Kojiro-san?" Tanjiro jokingly asked after noticing how undressed his teacher is. "I sleep naked, Kamado, my boy," Kojiro replied casually with a smile. "Oh," was all Tanjiro could say, now wishing he'd never asked. You laughed softly. "I'm gonna go put Tayo to bed now. You tell Kojiro. I'll be in after I'm done, okay?" Your husband simply nods before muttering that he'll be joining you once he's finished. "Say goodnight to Daddy and friends, Tayo," you say, making your baby wave bye-bye to everyone. Of course, Tayo didn't reply and only continues to suck out his pacifier/binky while continually glancing down at the four children in their futons. With that, you headed upstairs with your son in tow. After rinsing out his mouth, Kojiro made sure that his young Kaminai were comfortable and well tucked in. "Your wife is really nice, Rengoku-san," said Zenitsu. Kojiro smiles, feeling a great sense of pride swell up within him. "Yeah, she is. She just has the aura about her. I'll say. It's like having a mother," Tanjiro said softly. Indeed, it felt like having a mother again as Tanjiro briefly recalled his own mother and how happy his life was with his family before, And Kojiro, it felt like having a father. He's kind, enthusiastic, and patient. And Tanjiro always swore that Kojiro's heart never ran out of the room when it came to caring for others. A warm feeling coursed within Tanjiro's heart, and it's enough to put a genuine smile on his face, though he wouldn't admit it out loud, but he kind of liked being a part of a family again. Again, thank you for letting us stay with you, Rengoku-san, Tanjiro says, and finally sleep kicking in. Yeah, this is way better than staying in some moldy inn, Zenitsu says, also yawning. Ironically, Inosuke had already fallen fast asleep, and much to Kojiro's surprise, he had decided to sleep without his boar head on. "Any time, my friends," he smiles warmly at them, before cutting the lights off. The only light source coming from the rays of the moon, sweeping through the soji and curtains. After stopping by the nursery briefly to kiss his son on good night, Kojiro finds you already in bed. Upon making quick work of discarding his pants, he slowly slipped next to you in bed, causing you to squirm slightly. He was warm, like a heater on a cold night. Kojiro was embodiment of warmth, having no part in you being untouched by the warmth and his never-ending love for you as he kisses the back of your neck. "Ko? What are you doing?" you ask, feeling his press against your back. "Rewarding you for being such an amazing hostess. And mother," he says at the word mother. You turn to face him. "Mother?" Kojiro only smiles. "Yeah, apparently young Tanjiro sees you as a mother figure. You made quite the impression on him and his friends today." His words made you blush as you lean into his bare chest, wrapping your arms around his midsection as he pulled you into him. "I knew all along you'd be great with kids," you scoffed. They're like 15, Kojiro. It doesn't matter. You did wonderful, and they love you. He smiles. Remember when I told you that you'll make a really good mother to anyone? Yeah, you say, not really sure where he's going from this. Then let's add them to our family. You blinked in confusion. You mean as in adoption? Either I am or I'm speaking in tongues, he jokes, making you groan in annoyance. Idiot.